It is Thursday, December 21st, and this is the Environmental Advisory Council. And call to order, roll call, Janet Urbanez.
Here.
Cindy Mehallow. Here. Joe Pinto.
Here.
Dane Shoemaker.
Here.
Sheila O'Sullivan Feeney, present. All right. Moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. For a moment of silence. Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, Steve. All right. All right, before the agenda, I think the agenda, we're considering approving the agenda, and I believe Cindy, you wanted to make a motion to add some things to the agenda?
I printed it out and left it at
All right.
home. Let's see, I wanted to talk about 101 North Newtown Road,
Yes.
and
Your
the,
training program
tree training. And
the EAC, I know.
yep, and also the educational events. The calendar,
Okay,
yeah,
All right,
but each of these can be high level.
okay, so Cindy, if you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I move that we amend the agenda to add items for review, discussion, and possible action regarding the development at 101 North Newtown Road, the upcoming environmental annual report, the tree training being offered by PHS, and the educational event calendar for 2024.
Motion was made by Cindy Mehallow, seconded by
Jennifer Vanis.
Jennifer Venice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We will approve amending the agenda. All right. And Cindy, the reason why these weren't submitted earlier is that information just came up after we had done the agenda? Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay, so hopefully next time we want to kind of learn from that, so we don't
Yep.
want to add that many things late to the agenda.
Mhm.
All right. Item number 5.1, the minutes, considering and approving the
I
minutes.
just want to make sure that nothing requires an expense.
No.
Okay. Is anything a decision that you're going to make on any of the 4 items that you wanted to amend? What would be the decision that this group would be making? The reason I'm asking is the law has changed about amending the agenda.
Oh.
It's way more restrictive now. And so, this is something that the state Supreme Court has passed very recently. And so that's why I'm within the last month or two. And so I'm just making sure that we can amend what you want to amend.
Okay.
If it's a matter of just a discussion point and you're not taking an action and you're like more just updating, it's not a problem. If you're going to actually ask for an action, and I'm more concerned about the one that was the property one.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what level of action I'm thinking of asking for and to see if that requires.
Yeah,
On Newtown Road, it's that the EAC would agree to look into this further.
I think we can do that.
Okay.
I think that's not a big deal. Just be careful. The way the state Supreme Court has looked at this is they've really narrowed what can be added to an agenda.
Yeah, I don't think any of these are a policy or.
It sounds like it's mostly just more of an update and moving for further action in the future.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
That's why I wanted to ask before we do
Yeah.
anything further.
All right,
okay.
Thank
so
you.
The minutes, everyone voted in favor of approving the agenda. And on item 5.1, consider approving the minutes from our November 16th, 2023. Motion was made to approve the minutes from November 16th meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion stands on that. Okay, item number 6, presentation. This will be a review, discussion, and possible actions to follow the Pennsylvania Green Amendment. Overview presentation by Cindy Mehallow. Take it away.
Thank you. And Tim, can you pull this up? This is
Under the Green Amendment, the attachment.
there's a link to a PowerPoint.
Perfect.
So The reason I asked to add this to the agenda is that I have been aware of the Pennsylvania Environmental Rights Amendment for several years. I have a copy of the book signed by the author, who is the Delaware River Keeper, who's also an attorney. And what prompted me to mention this at this point are three factors. One, there's been some recent case law that's come up regarding this in the past couple months. Second, our experience with things getting bogged down in review at the township level. And I forget what the third reason is, but anyhow, I thought it was very timely to discuss this now. So what I'd like to explain is that Pennsylvania is one of just, oh, and the third thing is, I'm hoping that tonight, after we review this presentation, the EAC will agree that this or a revised version of it will be presented to the Board of Supervisors. If you look at the guidelines for EACs, one of our responsibilities is to prepare briefs, educational and informative briefs on relevant topics and present them to other elements in the township, such as the Board of Supervisor. So I think this is a very appropriate topic to present a briefing on. So this is kind of a dry run, present it to you, see what you all think about it, and then maybe go forward from there. So I think it's very significant, if we look at the first slide, that Pennsylvania is one of just 3 states that has an environmental rights protection amendment. This was passed in 1971. It's considered to be the most powerful amendment to a state constitution, and the wording is there. It says the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all of the people, including generations yet to come. As a trustee of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all people. If you go to the next slide. Outside sources have emphasized how powerful the ERA is. The National Caucus of Environmental Legislators says that it establishes a constitutional mandate recognizing that a healthy environment is an inherent, indefensible generational legal right of all citizens. And Pennsylvania Carey Law School at the University of Pennsylvania calls this the strongest environmental amendment in the country. So with this resource at our disposal, I wanted to make sure that the township was fully aware of this and taking full advantage of that. Go to the next slide. And these are some of the recent cases that I thought were really significant. Recent decisions have added to the case law supporting the powers of the ERA. Marple Township cited the ERA when they successfully defeated the PUC's attempt to site a gas transfer station at Cedar Grove and Sproul Roads. If you have driven in the past year up and down Route 320, you will have seen little lawn signs in opposition to this. And I never knew what the outcome of it was. They did not lose. They lost and then they won. They won. The site transfer station? I don't think so.
That's not it. That's broken out of the ground. Really? Oh.
So it's in a standstill, but it made an impact in terms at least of
Yeah.
holding things.
Well, that's new. I wrote this in November. So what happened last week isn't in there, but I can update it. I can check it back. They lost it one level and then they appealed it and they won.
Okay.
It was reversed. Yeah. Secondly, the Marple supervisors cited Article 1, Section 27, when they voted unanimously to reject the proposed residential development for Don Guanella. So this ERA was also cited in that. And then number 3, another example, this is in Western Pennsylvania. If you're familiar with the Falling Water, Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water House, they cited the ERA when they rejected, somebody wanted to build a fracking well very close to the house, and they said no. And they cited the ERA, and they rejected the building of that fracking well. And those are just some. So if you go to the next slide, this green amendment is described, and as I said, this is the first edition of the book, which I have. I realized when I was working on this that the author has come out with an updated version. You can see the cover looks a little different. I think she's updated it, simplified it. Maybe I haven't read it, but maybe to make it more action oriented, more accessible to municipalities. And it received very positive reviews. And it says that in this book, she presents a radically simple plan for a green future. And her strategy is to bypass local laws and turn to the ultimate authority, the state level or the federal constitutions to ensure we have the right to a healthy environment. And then you go to the next slide. There's more information about this, and I put these links in here because I'm encouraging my fellow EAC members to, when you have the time, click on the link and you can go and see more about this. The 50th anniversary of the ERA was last year, well, 2 years ago, May 2021, and there's information about that on the DEP website. So there's a link there, you can learn more. Then the next slide. And there are additional resources. These are targeted more to solicitors and attorneys. The Pennsylvania Bar Institute recently released an excellent resource on this topic. It's a video course which qualifies for continuing education credits for attorneys. And it was produced in conjunction with the Pennsylvania Bar Association. It just came out a couple months ago. And it contains a section focused on municipal issues and even cites the Marple Township versus PUC case. But if anything, to your point, Joe, happened more recently, it wouldn't be in there. Next slide, please. There are additional resources for consideration. These are, again, targeted more to attorneys. The Widener University has an Environmental Law and Sustainability Center, which has web resources about Article 1, Section 27. And there are other courses available online which carry CLE credits that would be relevant to attorneys. Next slide, please.
Okay,
That's the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it, short and sweet. And I just think this is something really important to learn more about ourselves and to share information about with the Board of Supervisors and other township personnel. So
Okay, so you wanted us to present this before the supervisors, or do you think we still need to have any further discussion or information from any other EAC members? Dane?
I'm not familiar with the ERA, but it's very interesting, so I'll definitely dive into some of the additional resources, so thank you for sharing.
sure.
Yeah.
So would it be advisable also to present to the planning commission? Or entities that?
Probably.
What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, I think first, I mean, first of all, I think that you want to make sure that you all understand what it is.
What it is and what we're
And
planning,
then
right.
make a decision what you want to present to the board. And then from that, you know, if the board were to say, yes, we think this will be a basis that we want to make decisions upon, then I think then it would be something that would be presented to the planning commission in that way. You know, I mean, like, I think that you want to have the board's buy-in and understanding before you start going around to other groups within the
Absolutely.
township and doing.
Right.
So then maybe what we would do is to give the EAC members time to digest it. We discuss this again in January after our members have had a chance to look at this, if they want more time to look at it. Of course, Dane, you're not going to be with us, right?
I don't know, we
No.
might, it's his last meeting, but I don't know, we'll see. But
But that would be one
Right.
route. And then if we discuss it again in January and then
Put it
move
before
it- then move ahead with asking to present it at a Board of Supervisors meeting.
And I think for the goal of before the supervisors is just like a 5-minute tops presentation because they are so inundated with requests. And we'd have to have an action that we're asking from them. What would you think that would be? Or you still
Okay,
want
well,
to
first
discuss?
of all, I think I did it in about 5 minutes.
Yes, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have
So
to
it
see-
wouldn't be any
Really?
longer than
Perfect.
that. And,
So it's just more informative rather than you require an action from them.
I think
this
at this
phase.
point, I would just say it's informative.
Perfect. All right, I think that's a great.
What do you
All right.
think? What do you think, Steve? Yeah, okay.
All right, so we will add that to our January things. Everyone just, if you can prepare at that point, it should be easy. We don't need to discuss it again in the sense of depth. But Cindy, you and I can discuss how that would be the presentation and we would then look to get on the calendar for the supervisors. I would assume sometime in January or February, depending upon when probably February because we don't meet till the 18th. Great.
Okay, thank you.
All right, wonderful. All right, item number, land development review, 7.1, discussion and possible action regarding land development plans for 326 Bishop Hollow Road. Applicant goes before the planning commission in January. Now, I do understand for this particular property, we did not get the actual plans, or I never received the plans. We saw the copy of the application. And it is a 1.72 acres, R2 property.
Excuse me, we got there were 3 attachments.
Right, on the sheet that I got, I didn't get into the plans.
There was the redacted application. There was a plan set, and I forget what the third document was. So we did.
But it
see-
was not,
It's a plan set.
it wasn't attached on the agenda is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it
We-
wasn't on the agenda.
Yes, and that's what
It
we're gonna
was
talk about that.
Circulated
By
by
us.
email
I sent it out to you from,
in advance.
right.
Yeah,
And
I-
we'll talk with Jamie about that because that should have been on there.
it should have been on.
The
it.
good news is this doesn't go before the planning commission till January 25th. So that's the good news. It is a 1.72 acres property. It is presently R2 zoned. They're proposing 2 houses, with septic and public water access. And I believe that, I sent out the email to everyone on December 6th. And, the question that they're discussing, I believe, is just the frontage area. Anything else on this property, Steve?
I think
You
the biggest issue on this property, I mean, if you look at it from a bird's eye kind of view, there's a very similar property, I think,
Yes.
either next door, or
2 doors
immediately
down,
next
yes.
door, or 2 doors out. May even be 2 doors down the other direction, a very similar property, where there's a flag lot. The reason why the issue is that our ordinance has kind of a strange definition regarding frontage, but at the same time talks about flag lots. And so we have a requirement that you have so much frontage, but then we have turn around this definition of a flag lot within it. So I know that's one of the reasons why it provides a little bit of a challenge for those who are looking at it, whether or not they can do it or not.
Yes.
With that in mind, that's I think the biggest issue that's kind of before. Other than that, I think the projects, I think there is also an issue of the side yard setback in regards to where the driveway would be. I think there's that issue, but other than that, I think it's a pretty straightforward, not asking for a lot of variances other than that.
I'm a little concerned because the front lot and the back row of evergreens, and I could only see from the street, were already taken down. So I've seen
But
like,
that was by a prior owner.
oh, but these are
so-
fresh cuts. There's like 7 trees by the evergreens in the back that are fresh cuts. You can just see, I didn't go on the property, but from the street, you can see the fresh cuts at the back of the property where the
Oh.
evergreens are.
Well, then I don't know about those.
And I was concerned because they, removed those trees and these were,
But
evergreens.
under our ordinance, they're allowed to do that.
Yes.
So there's nothing we can say about it.
Well, it's when it's going through planning commission, would that be?
Well, I think that it'd be appropriate at that point to kind of say, hey, we knew they were there,
Yes,
you know.
But isn't it that this is,
But because there's a difference here that this is a subdivision.
yes, not a land development.
It is land development,
Well-
but it's a subdivision.
so does that mean that it doesn't have to follow the tree removal process for?
Well, I think the point that I'm making is if they did it prior to applying, and I don't know if they did or didn't. If they did it prior to applying, then it wouldn't fit, right? Because they would have already done it as a single lot as that it sits on, and they
Right.
could have done that.
Right.
If they come back in and they have done it since they've applied, I would argue that it does apply at that point. And they would have to replace what they took down.
Right.
But I don't know that. I don't know what shows on the plans. I don't know what actions were taken and, you know, just the fact that they did it, the board may still say, or the planning commission or the shade tree may still say, hey, we think you ought to have to put these back because you just took them down. kind of thing.
And as I said, I could only see them from Bishop Hollow. I couldn't go onto the property.
Yeah,
But you could see their fresh cuts and there's a straight line of trees. Beyond that is another row of evergreens that are still intact. So I don't know at what point, you know, is that a separate property? I didn't look at that.
well, there's actually a piece of township property sits, it's not township, it's municipal authority, but there's a piece of publicly owned property
Right behind that?
right behind it.
Oh, okay, great.
So two comments, one about the trees. This, I believe, is the property that clear cut the trees when they moved in for about 4 years ago.
The prior owners did the cutting,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you remember? This is the
Oh,
same
yes.
property,
And,
yeah.
and this,
There was a row of huge, beautiful trees out front along the street
Yeah.
and I just cut. They finally ground them out about a year ago.
yes,
But my question about this, and I think you sort of explained it, is just understanding where this fits in the whole process. And because it is a subdivision, then it is a land development.
It becomes a land development then.
So it is a land development. So my question is like, what's the process? Is Andy gonna look at this? Is the engineer gonna look at this?
Oh, yeah, they have to go before the
Okay.
planning commission, all of those
So
typical
all of that
steps.
will apply.
Right.
So when we go to see this in January, can we expect that those things will have happened? That maybe the engineer's letter would be ready? And that, like, what's the
I
flow
mean,
of? the
Yeah,
review
so I
process?
mean, will the engineer's letter be ready or not by that point? I can't speak to that. I don't know when the engineer will be done their review. I mean, the reality is probably so because we would want to give them an opportunity to respond, and that's about a week before the meeting.
yes.
So
We're due
the planning
25th.
commission meeting,
Right.
your meeting is
Is
a
the
week
18th.
before that.
Yes,
So
what's the
I would think
25th?
that,
planning, they go before the planning commission on the
Okay.
25th. Our meeting is the 18th of January.
so I would think that I would think the engineer would have completed it by then, whether they've had a chance to respond to the engineer's letter or not.
Okay.
That's gonna be tough. The way it's said is they don't have to have adjusted their plan to the engineer's comments until after the planning commission.
Okay,
So, we've actually, we're just addressing that today, going forward. And so I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but
Yeah,
should there be? Probably. Can I guarantee it will be? I
of
don't,
course.
you know,
Okay,
I can't.
okay.
That's what
that
I'm
is
saying.
an
But yes,
expected
it's going to be
step.
reviewed by Andy. It's going to be reviewed by the engineer. It will be reviewed by our arborist. You know, all of those things will happen.
Okay,
and the only benefit is because this application was dated earlier in December and normally would have gone through before the planning commission in December. And since there's no planning commission in December, it's been pushed back to January. So that actually is probably working to our advantage time-wise.
Yeah, I think they requested it to get
Yeah.
moved to January.
So
Okay.
we'll actually have a chance to even submit our EAC's form if we have any comments on it
Yeah.
at our 18th and submit it by the 19th, and we'll be able to comply with that.
Okay.
All right, so from our perspective, we'll wait for more information and then make our comment at our January 18th meeting on this issue. And we can address that next month. All right. New business, update on possible action on bird count programs, the Great Backyard Bird Count, Wednesday, January 24th at 7 to 9 p.m. Janet, oh, and Tim, can you bring up that slide? And Janet, you want to take it away?
Yes, well, Cindy and I have been working together on putting together, a number of the in-person meetings to help our residents with, important, sustainable practices. And, Cindy was going to, I think we were going to talk about the, number of, workshops that we. But the first one will happen, on January the 24th, and that will be, the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is sponsored by the Bill Whitmere, who is Vice President of Birdtown, Pennsylvania, also, was part of the here in Delaware County. Will be our speaker, and they'll be talking about best practices for, our backyard birds, and then also the different, apps that you can download to be part of the Great Backyard Bird Count. It's really, an important process for citizen science. We've lost about 3 billion birds in the last year, so keeping track of what's coming through our, backyards, and then submitting that information to, ornithology, lab of ornithology is an important, process. Cindy has put together this wonderful,
Beautiful flyer. Yeah, it
beautiful
looks great.
flyer that we're going to put on, certain locations, as well as, Cindy, you're going to adapt it also.
Yeah.
Location.
Yeah, that's part of the point of information tonight, is just that Janet and I are going to work on publicizing this more, getting it out through Suzanne, adapting this and providing a version to fit on the screen out here, sending out a press release to the patch, things like that. So
Awesome.
just to let you know, we're going to be,
This was
promoting it.
included in the township's hard copy magazine as well, and it will go into the digital magazine as well. So it's
Yep.
already set, and then I will be pushing out in January as soon as we get past Christmas. Dane and Joe, can Janet count on you to help push the word out about this event? It's really important. All right.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
What is the February? It says February 16 to 19.
That's the actual backyard bird count.
When the
Got
county,
it.
they're
Okay.
training you in advance on how to do it and what you need to
President's
do.
Week.
Got it. Okay.
All right,
Right.
perfect. All right, so no
Yes.
action. Thank
So-
you so much for that, Janet.
So that's that aspect of Birdtown, but I also wanted to report that bird towns in Delaware and Chester counties, which are within the Valley Forge Audubon Society territory. We are part of the Valley Forge Audubon Society grouping, and we have clustered together to share best practices and materials to augment our support for birds and wildlife by educating residents on sustainable practices. We had our first meeting with 7 bird towns at Chanticleer in November, and Chanticleer has offered to host other events for bird towns, including winter walks on their beautiful property. And Phil Whitmere, as I mentioned, he will be our speaker on the 24th, who is, and myself, as Secretary of Birdtown, PA, have offered to chair the clutch meetings, and we will have a clutch touch in early January, part of the fun, but couldn't resist it. And also in January, we will be submitting an annual report for our activities in 2023, which includes a wealth of activities more than just bird walks and bird talks, because all the activities that we've done that Cindy has been working so hard on with rain gardens and tree plantings and weedings are all part of our sustainable practices. And if there's anything that the township has enacted through the Sustainable Pennsylvania, I'll be reaching out to Suzanne to find out if there's something we can include.
That's great. And Janet, if we can, from a calendar perspective, I want to try to get everything together in January, just so we have laid out the year, because you have multiple events. If you could present them to me and just in one format, just the dates, because I really want to help everyone have these dates available to us.
that's the one follow-up I wanted to mention, is that we had mapped out a number of events for the year, so that we could coordinate them with the other organizations and also reserve the rooms. I've been in dialogue with Jamie or Kristen about room reservations. And I think what we're gonna do is just, we had originally tried to reserve the rooms for the entire year and that didn't go well. So we're just gonna reserve a couple months out.
Good.
The other thing I want to do, and just to alert you all, is that in the interest of coordinating with the other bodies and organizations, I would like to take the calendar that we had submitted, that we'd shared at the last meeting,
Yes.
and just circulate it to all our colleagues and say, this is what we're thinking of doing. Can we coordinate with you? You know, are we overlapping with you? Let's not step on each other's toes. Do you want to co-sponsor any of these with us before they get really, you know, solidified?
Great.
If that's okay, I'll circulate it with the other groups. For example, a case in point is that the Newtown Historical Society is having a beekeeping talk later this month. Now, first I'm like, but it's the history of beekeeping. Well, that's fine. That's their purview. They're staying in their lane. But, you know, maybe there's a possibility for synergy there.
Absolutely.
So
When is that about?
Kathy did reach out to me
Oh, great.
and asked me if I wanted to do a tabling there at this talk, and it will be here at the Township Building on the 17th of January,
Oh, okay.
which I'll be there, so it'll be good to figure out how we make sure that the PowerPoint that Phil would present the following week, you know, how we get somebody to make sure there's somebody's here who can set that kind of equipment up for us. So it kind of be a prelude. I also did mention to Kathy that we as a committee decided not to push a resolution or a ordinance about beekeeping. And that's when, and I told her why, because of the competition with
Right.
the native bees. She was going to pass that information on to the speaker, who will be speaking on the 17th of January about the history of beekeeping, to address that issue. So
Awesome.
that,
So we
right.
don't encourage behavior that we're trying to discourage.
Yes.
Perfect.
Exactly, right.
Awesome.
Right.
Very
I'll
good.
be present for that on the 17th.
Great. All right, so that will be everything on the Birdtown. Let's getting into item. We need no action then on Janet, on 8.1, but I would look
Just
forward to those dates.
informative.
And Cindy, we, anything we do to get possible dates for this, because there's so much going on in 2024. And PHS determines, you know, Arbor Day, Earth Day, all of those events too. So we want to coordinate with that. All right, item 8.2, and this is an important item. This is discussion and possible action on proposed stormwater management fee to encourage and incentivize residents to take responsibility for all their stormwater on their property and work toward ways to mitigate stormwater in our community. And as you know, this was a stormwater fee that there's, I think it's like 8.5 million or 8.2 million that's necessary for the finance committee had made a recommendation for them to assess each property. I believe every quarter acre will be assessed $50. And it's an important way to help control our stormwater. And I think Cindy, you and I had talked, and you mentioned at the meeting, it's something we all agree needs to be done. We definitely have to take it. We were just trying to say going forward in, let's say, 2025, because once a fee is on there, we weren't sure if this was a one-time fee or is it going to be ongoing? Is there some way for us to look to incentivize, you know, landowners to take responsibility and help mitigate their water instead of just here's pay the fee and be irresponsible with your stormwater? And you brought up an invaluable point at the meeting, and I don't think they understood. And when the finance committee was discussing the stormwater, when you brought up this point as
Yeah,
well.
it seems, the impression I got was that the immediate concern is generating revenue in a simple, expeditious process that could be implemented immediately. And that it is $50 what
For
they
every-
proposed.
Yeah,
Quarter acre.
I mean, but the
Quarter
board
acre.
didn't take any action on it. So the finance committee recommended it, but the board took no action.
Yeah,
Okay.
just yet.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know that it could happen in 2024 because I would think that would have to be done as part of the budgeting process, and it was not.
Okay.
You know, there may be something they can do later in the year if it's truly a fee, but I don't know that they would do that. So,
I think what our concern was, we totally support stormwater and we understand the need for this. This is something very important. But we also looked at other properties who are doing the right things. And we want to encourage residents to be property owners who manage and take care of the responsible water on their property. That is their responsibility. Water should be managed on your property, period, end of discussion. It should not be piped out to the street, piped out into your neighbors or anything. And our concern was if this was going to be an ongoing fee, is there a way that we can incentivize neighbors and residents to take responsibility and maybe, set up rain gardens, rain barrels, have their property, if you've ever heard of the watershed friendly certification program through Penn State, the extension program and the Master Water Stewards program with the Nurture Nature Center, which is the DEP funded program. I had my property certified with that program because we've taken all those steps. Cost us a lot of money, but it's something that we want to.
Yeah, if I could add, Steve, because it sounds like the board is not going to take action this year, right? They didn't vote. And
They didn't take action, they didn't take any action when they passed the budget this year, so.
Okay,
I-
so it appears it's going to be another year before there's any additional source of funding.
The only funding that we have is what's remaining of the ARPA funds.
Okay. So, what I heard from the finance committee was that they were structuring the fee to be simple, flat fee, with no, deductions or offsets for, it just simple, doesn't rely on calculation of impervious surface, doesn't take into consideration any actions that homeowners might do. And I know in other jurisdictions where they've instituted stormwater management fees, they have had those nuances, which makes structuring a fee more complicated. But now if it seems that there's going to be this lull and that there's the time sensitivity of implementing this is passed, maybe the board or the finance committee now has time to step back and take a look at this fee structure and spend more time studying it and maybe add some nuance about it.
Yeah, just for, the reason being is we just don't want someone just to pay a fee and let the water be
Yeah,
mismanaged.
we'd love to incentivize.
And we want to say, let's.
I think that's part of the whole issue, to be
Right.
honest with you. I mean, it's, the stormwater is highly regulated. Charges for stormwater are highly regulated by the state. And so I would think that before anything could be done, it would have to be reviewed by our solicitor to even find out if we could take the actions that the
Right.
finance committee recommended.
I guess what we can do though, right now is help with the EAC and with our initiatives, make people aware, and like we're doing with the rain gardens, rain barrels and everything of that nature, to bring the information to the residents so that way they can start making changes now, because whether or not, at the end of the day, that stormwater has to be better managed, because townships that are below us, municipalities are suffering. And if we don't take responsibility for our water, we're hurting other communities. So I guess from our standpoint, we don't need to take any action on this because this is a non-issue right now. It's just something to be considered. And maybe when they go back to this issue, we can make them aware of that because that is something just to be considered. And again, it's about incentivizing residents to do the right thing. All right.
So one of our in-house workshops is going to be on rain gardens, but it will be also walking.
Yes.
To see the rain garden. This issue could be addressed.
Maybe we can reach out and to see, they do the programs where they bring in the rain barrels, and if you take the class, they will bring in 50 rain barrels to the community.
Oh, Haverford does that.
Yeah, I will look into see if indeed by chance we could maybe wrap that around one of those programs that you're discussing, because if you go to the presentation, yeah.
No, I know. I've just never been a big fan of rain barrels because they collect so little water.
Right.
It's like a drop in the bucket.
I know.
And then you have to manage it. You want to make sure it doesn't get dirt, and
Yeah.
polluted and mosquitoes, and you've got to use the rain barrels. To me, it seemed like a big lift for not a big return.
I think what it is for us, we do it personally, but we do it because we have a French drain, we do a dry burn, we do so many other things in addition, and every ounce of water we try to keep out of the process. And again, it allows us to use the water when the summer heat for flowering and for our flowers and everything. So it's actually a good excuse. All right, so that's awesome. All right, we're going to discuss the 4 new items, Cindy, that you mentioned.
Oh,
Because they're all new business.
okay.
And item number 8.3, which will be the EAC's annual report. This was brought to our attention that this needs to be done. It hasn't been done since 2019, or at least we haven't received it. So Cindy's going to send out a draft to everyone. We all have our individual areas that we can edit and send that in by January 8th. Cindy, anything else on the EAC annual report?
That's
Okay,
it.
our goal is to have this done by our January 18th meeting, so it can be presented to the supervisors in February.
Yeah, so if you could just, edit the Word file that you get. Hopefully you all know how to do that and then send it back to me. I'll integrate everyone's comments.
And that's
Yeah.
January
Yeah,
is your deadline.
yeah,
Perfect.
We-
All right.
We see our names next. to
Yes.
Right, yeah.
All right,
And-
item.
I'm sorry, and if there's something that's missing, like a whole topic that you feel we overlooked? Because I just kind of worked from the 4-year-old version and tried to do a quick update of it. But I think I flagged sustainable Newtown Square. Yeah.
All
So,
right, and
thank you.
item 8.4, Cindy, you mentioned the tree training. You want to discuss that really?
Yeah,
quickly?
I just got an email today or yesterday that PHS, Pennsylvania Horticulture Society, which sponsors the tree tender groups, is offering 2 programs that they really never did before. One is like a midwinter tree maintenance
Oh, I saw that, yes.
series, and the second is an advanced pruning club. And the action that I'm just wanted to run by everybody is I think these are great resources that I would love to broadcast widely and encourage other elements in the township to get involved. From George Seritz at Public Works, some of his guys have taken the tree tender training, like to alert shade tree, the tree tender groups, but before I just started sending this out there and encouraging people to sign up. Wanted to
Do you
let you know.
think we should maybe have Shade Tree be the organization that shares that information because it's tree tending? Not so that we don't overstep, or is it something that you can work with them? I mean, what do you think?
I could discuss it with Trish beforehand, but she's generally so overwhelmed. And
I know.
has
I
such
just don't
little
want to,
support. Yeah,
I don't want us
Yeah.
to appear like we're doing something without
Yeah.
their support. So
Yeah.
if you discuss it with it, and so really there's no action, there's no cost to us. This is just about communicating
Yeah.
and maybe
You
supporting
mentioned,
it.
Cindy, that there are other tree tenders that are not part of.
yeah, there are, as far as I know, there are 2 tree tender groups that are registered in Newtown Township. One was created years ago, I think, kind of under Paul and Janet Crevane, not Janet Elliott. I don't know that they've ever done anything as a tree tender group. I think it was formed on paper so that we had that in existence, so that we could get the discount trees that we've been purchasing every year. However, this year, a second group was formed with John and myself and his
Awesome.
wife. And we are registered as the Hunters Run Tree Tender Group because
Wonderful.
we each are tree tender program graduates.
I'm a tree
And
tender.
our HOA wanted to purchase trees from the PHS and plant them in our HOA. And in order to do that, we needed to form our own little tree tender group. So we did. So officially, in the view of PHS, there are 2 tree tender groups in Newtown Township. And this pruning club, which they're trying to get going, it's like they want you to have this pruning club, but they want you to have a tree tender group first, and but yada, yada, yada. There's all these steps. But even if that were to happen, it is not through the township. It is not through Shade Tree. It would be these
Right.
separate tree tender groups.
All right, so the motion was put forth by Cindy Mehallow that Cindy would provide support to the Shade Tree Commission to promote training programs in the township. And anything else that you need, there's no other action. All in favor? Okay. Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion stands. Great luck. Thank you, Cindy. That's awesome. All right, and item 8.5, that's the 101 North Newtown Street Road, and this was what you and I believe John Custard and
Yeah,
What
it came to our attention that, the property, it's really like, I think 3537 Cali Road, was developed. One house was put in there in 2019, much to my surprise and dismay, given the fact that it has a stream and wetlands and the headwaters of Fox's Run. The house was built, and I thought that would have been it. But in the last year, 2 more houses have been built there. And if you look at the wetlands mapper, which is online, it clearly shows Hunter's or Fox's Run goes right down the middle of the property. The distance between the stream and Route 252 is only 50 feet, 60 feet. But they managed to wedge a house in there. And it seems that shouldn't be. And we're just wondering, how did that happen? How did it come to be that we never saw any land development review here?
Wasn't this 2015, you believe is when
It was 2019 that
Oh.
the first house was built.
but I thought you said the plan said 2015. But that.
I
we
must have
received-
misspoke.
Okay,
Well, you mean in my email I mentioned
Yes.
that? Well, different things happened at different point in time, and I
Okay.
think maybe it got approved in 2015. Anyhow, my point is that it's very unfortunate that this got developed. It's very unfortunate that this happened by the headwaters. I'd like to understand why, how did this come to be? And Steve, I am not an expert on land development review and approval, but I'm just wondering, how could this be? Could it have happened by right? Why would this house have been built in the past 12 months and none of our bodies reviewed it in the time we've been reviewing things for several years? How long, how
So
could that have
if,
happened?
so if the plan was approved, and it could have been, if it was approved in 2015, you all were not reviewing plans back at that point. And they would be able to move forward and do as the plan was approved, and there would be no, they'd have no reason to come back to the township other than for the permit itself. And so if the subdivision was done at that point, I don't know when the subdivision was done. If the subdivision was done prior to that point, it could be even older than that. I don't know. I know the first house, I think you said, was built in 2019. I actually thought it was a little bit earlier than that, but whenever it was built, again, I think the plan was approved.
Years
It could have
before
been,
that.
I don't recall it being approved since I've been here, but that doesn't mean it wasn't. I thought it was approved prior to that. I think
Yeah.
it was recorded in 2015. I think it was approved prior to my coming. And so it would not have, I don't think we've been bringing things to you until the last 2 years.
Right.
So, that would be part of the reason in that direction.
There wouldn't have been a riparian buffer prior to.
I can only tell you if it was approved prior, I don't know.
Right.
I would have to go pull all the documents specifically related to that and how they were approved. You know, they had to go before PennDOT to get approval because they put in a driveway out to 252 that requires a PennDOT approval. You know, I don't know all the steps that were done. They would have, if they put a driveway over top of the stream, there would have been steps they had to take with DEP. There's all kinds of things that would have had to be done. Now, whether like I said, without knowing when the exact plan was approved, without looking back and what was in place at that time, I don't know.
Okay, well, water under the bridge at this point, pun intended. But the bigger point that I think we need to take away is that as there becomes less and less developable land in Newtown Township, we are going to see, I think we are seeing more and more of this, what you might call infill development. If you look at 3111 Sawmill, that to me is a perfect example, that it was a lot that people, there was one house on it. People probably considered it previously undevelopable further, but now people are looking at harder. They're trying to squeeze houses in there. When you look at the Nolan development up at Stony Knoll, first he was just going to do the houses on the field, and then he thought, I want to squeeze a house in over here where there's wetlands. I think we need to prepare ourselves and our ordinances and our defenses to be ready for this, because we're not going to see more big plots like Lissitor. I think more and more homeowners are going to be coming in, and like this flag lot here, this is what we're going to see more and more of. And if they do the zoning review or whatever, might be all done at this point. Are we ready? Are our ordinances ready to defend against this in the light of what's going on with stormwater management and $8.5 million? Because all this infill development is just going to make it harder to get to that point. And it might be incentive for the township as they look at things like this riparian buffer draft, which we've been asking for and which was in the strategic plan, to widen the riparian buffers, to allow for alternatives to traditional lawns. If you think about that, that's kind of what these types of ordinances are going to hopefully protect us against.
Right.
So that's just kind of a broader red flag.
All right, so from this lesson, I mean, we can obviously learn from, Andy wasn't here in the same prop for this property. Remember, this predates him, it predates Steve. Unfortunately, it looks like it predates all of us. The lesson learned, though, is we right now are on top of things and making sure that, like you said, Cindy, very little land left to develop. But in those circumstances, we want to make sure that we try to protect both the land and the stormwater issues. You had 4 issues. Is there anyone that we're missing, or we covered them all?
We had talked about the educational events earlier, so
Okay.
we've covered them all.
Perfect.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right, so we need no action on that. On item number 9.1, old business. This is review, discussion, and possible action for the riparian buffer draft ordinance submitted to the township solicitor for consideration by the Board of Supervisors. Steve and I met on Friday, and the township has a lot of legal issues that are outside of just what our needs are. So they have a hierarchy of things that they need to address first. We are on that list to get done. We are looking at the riparian buffers. We talked about the miscommunication that happened last month with the ordinance that we received. So they're aware of it, and that will be on the top of the list. I did mention last time that Rich would be getting coal from Santa if the ordinance wasn't at our December meeting. So I'll be making sure that he gets his coal, but Janet reminded me that coal is not environmentally friendly, so I'm going to have to use some other type of manure isn't methane, and that's not environmentally friendly. I'll have to find something.
Manure is environmentally friendly.
No, actually, the methane gas is
Oh.
not. So we'll find something that's environmentally friendly to encourage Rich, but I understand the situation with the township. Steve and I, as I said, we spoke about all these things. We had a great productive meeting and really made sure to express our frustration because we're waiting for these things. But again, we don't understand all the needs of the business of what the township has to do. And if they're looking at their legal issues and maybe one ordinance every month or so, we're on target. So I think we're all working together, and that's a good succession. On item number 9.2, it's the same thing, update and possible action on the township weed meadow lawn alternatives ordinance to help residents with lawn conversions, meadows, naturalized lawn, and lawn alternatives. We're on target too. We're supporting that. You saw Boron got Willistown Conservation. They're going to be doing their meadow lawn
Right.
turnover this spring. And that was again with the support of the EAC. We all
Yes.
encourage them, so which is phenomenal. We are seeing more residents who are taking interest in this. We are putting out articles and information about this. So we're on target there. And again, if we could get this into the queue for our list of ordinances, we know we want the wetlands riparian first, and that we think we could flow.
Yeah, if I could just go back and make 2 points on
Sure.
9.1. It's not the EAC that said this.
The super-
This was adopted by the Board of Supervisors in the comprehensive plan 8 years ago?
Yes.
8 years ago. They've known this has been identified as something they wanted to do.
Yes.
That's it.
And I know we are going to be coming up for a new comprehensive plan, so we want to make sure this is done before we get to that point. So yep. We're moving forward in that step. All right, item number 9.
What, Janet? I just wonder how many of these proposals are addressed by the solicitor, is it on a monthly basis? Like, does he do one a month? or-
Well, no, first of all, there's other issues outside of
I
ordinances,
understand.
right? So they have legal issues, they have township issues, they have issues from the supervisors, they have, so, and the situation that we're in is we're working with the township through these issues. And, you know, Steve he knows these are important to us. He knows that we're frustrated waiting for this, but we have to respect the process that he's going through, and we're trying to do that. So is there anything else you want to add to that, Steve?
I mean, I do want to be clear that, I mean, it comes up regularly. I'm actually changing a little bit of how we address some of these things. I'm going to, the solicitor and engineer and I are going to be meeting on a regular basis just to get an update. And so I can keep it before, because some of it requires both parties weighing in, and giving some direction. So I just want to make sure everybody's working on the same page. The challenge that I think we have is that we had 4 of the committees that all came back at the same time and said, we want changes to ordinances. And it kind of got, you know, he started working on the shade tree piece, and even that's not completed yet. So, you know, and on top of that, there were some other things that went with it, and we're working through it. That's all I can tell you. And
If I could share a conversation I had with a gentleman at the EAC conference who was on his township's EAC and Board of Supervisors. We were discussing the legal bandwidth issues where you had said that, you know, there's a lot of things on the plate and bandwidth issues. He said that his municipality and others as well sometimes have a cadre of solicitors. They don't just have one. They have several attorneys that they can turn to, that they can farm work out to, and that they can give projects to based on the expertise or the availability of these different lawyers. So something food for thought.
yeah, that would be a decision of the board.
All right, item number 9.3, update, discussion, and possible actions to further support the Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition. And as you know, Dane is leaving us at the end of this. This is his last meeting, and we're going to be devastated. But what's great about Dane is he is a board member of the Newtown Square Business Association. We're going to be working together. So he's not really leaving us. He's just going to be wearing a different hat, but he's
Green one.
still going to be wearing his green one.
Sheila won't let me leave, so.
Oh, he's never leaving. I have his phone number. So wait, the great news is, we just had a fantastic month. I mean, we've had so much going on, for our pledges. We have, for this month, our new pledges, the Stardy's Nursery, Grace and Gate Boutique in St. Albans Circle, Bunny Hair, Newtown Square Business Association, the David J. Monroe Allstate Office in Clover Lane in Newtown Square, the Running Place, Marple Newtown Recreation, which was a really great things because they are supporting with the children's program. And in addition, Kid Stop is under their umbrella, and the Megan O'Neill Studio, which is just opening up tomorrow in Smedley Lane. So this is a fabulous, growing into our green business sustainability pledge. What's awesome about all of these businesses, they've working together with our green business leaders, and Steve and I and Dane have talked about this. We're looking to do an event in 2024 where we're going to bring our green business leaders together. We're going to coordinate with the business association to make sure we pick a time and a place that kind of is convenient for our businesses, bring our best management practices together, bring business leaders, discuss what they're doing, share opportunities for synergy, and just really be supportive of this. And so we're going to have some dates. We're trying to check with the business association, what they suggest. I'm checking with Steve, making sure the supervisors are around. I want to work around Shade Trees dates, Arbor Day, Earth Day, all of those events. And Janet, that's why even your Bird Town, I want to make sure we get all the dates together so we can pick a time, because this will really be an important program to highlight the EAC, highlight shade, what we're doing with the Green Business Program Initiative, so that'll be awesome.
Janet, I mean, Sheila, are you thinking that this might be like a weekday luncheon or an evening program? What are your thoughts at this point?
I think either a luncheon or a like happy hour, 5 o'clock type of thing.
Yeah, we spoke with Steve Neeson. He mentioned too, to really take guidance from the Business Association, maybe is it like a breakfast, because we only have limited funds for this. So maybe is it going to be like an 8 to 10? It really is, I'm waiting for Paul and Sheila Hiller Turner, Sheila's going to be the chair of the Business Association going forward. So those two can give their input, and I think it's really gonna be a decision with the Business Association, with the township. and
Yeah,
everyone.
I think one of the challenges is you want the business folks to attend,
Yes,
but the businesses are open.
yes,
I mean, that's one of the challenges. And so,
Yeah.
it's one thing if it's a business and you got 5 people working for you, you can walk away and it's not a big deal. But some of our business owners are in their shops
yes.
anytime the door is open. So when you're asking them to close their door so they can attend an event, that becomes the challenge. And that was the conversation I had with Sheila. I'm not so much worried about the dollars. We can figure that piece out, but the trying to find a time. And I know that the Business Association actually struggles with this from time to time, is like, when do we have our events that we can get people to? Some people can get away for an hour and it's not a big deal, but if you want to have an event that's 2 hours or
Right.
2.5 hours long, how do you do that? And that's the reason why I said really work through them to find out what's the best time. I know that when I do the Business Association has at the beginning of the year, kind of a state of the township. And, Leonard and myself and the chief go to that. That has always been early in the morning, mostly before most of the business is open. And we try to get done as quickly as possible so that the business owners, can get to
They
their
get to-
places. And so that's the challenge that's there. And that's why a breakfast was kind of suggested.
Right. And we're looking
Or,
maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It depends really on, we have a couple things, but we're looking for any ideas, input together. But I think, like Steve said, the Business Association will kind of give us some structure as to what they think based on these particular business. We'll speak with them as well. We do have one company who's offering to host us if we do it at their place. We've discussed different options, and so all of those details will be worked out, but that's why I'm saying to you, Dane is not going away. He's definitely thing. Dane, anything else you want to add on that?
No, I mean, I can take that as an action to go to Sheila
Yeah.
and Paul to see
Please.
what might work best. We're thinking April timeframe for Earth Month, along those.
Right, there's some dates.
Or not April,
Or
not April,
it's already too busy. Yeah,
March.
okay.
Seriously, there's so much going on in April.
April is gonna be, yeah,
March.
and- yeah,
Okay.
March.
March or May, maybe?
March or May, yeah, I would say April, we were talking about like Earth Day, now it sounds lovely, but that's our tree tender, that's our everything.
just-
There's
Sure.
we're
That
in
makes
there,
sense,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Just note, April 26th to May 6th is off the calendar, that date, just take that off.
What do you-
Steve, April 26th to May 6th, Steve is away, and I really need
Oh.
Steve to be there, so. Steve Neese is away. And
Amazing.
That doesn't affect.
you
us.
don't know that?
No, you don't know.
I got that from your private secretary. I called your wife and find out what your vacation plans are.
thank you.
All right, let's see now so that's really, anything else though, things for Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition?
No, but again, I just, it's been a pleasure, being on this board. I mean,
You're not
Yeah.
going away, buddy.
no. I mean, certainly I may return in public service in the future at some point, but yeah, certainly won't be going far.
Yeah.
My truck and my shovel is always
Oh,
available
good.
once we get. to
And
Planet
Dane
Street,
is actually going
so-
to continue going on meetings with me if we have, sometimes we need suits for some of these meetings, and we have a couple big ones set up, so we'll see. Some suits, we're joking, but it's like it's a good way to balance each other.
Yeah,
All right.
no, Dane, thank you so much for
Yes.
all you've done. You've really made a
Yes,
big
right.
contribution with the whole sustainable Newtown Square would
Yes.
not have happened without you.
Yes.
Well, it's
So
been,
thank
yeah,
you.
it's been a lot of fun and certainly, joined 3 years ago. It's been 3 years. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow,
And,
Just like last year for that.
I would not have guessed it's been 3
Right,
years.
yeah, yeah. So, just during the pandemic, I moved here 5 years ago with the family and then started a family here and had the itch to give, volunteer and get out, and it's been
Wonderful.
wonderful. So just
Yeah.
getting to know everybody and,
Right.
so
You'll
Certainly
still
will-
be around with your camera.
absolutely, yeah.
Well, if you can look at the Township's in the hard copy magazine going out in January, we listed some of our green business leaders. And we put out their logos. We have a fantastic full page. And it's really great. And it's just some of the businesses who have stepped up and we identify them as green business leaders. And that's really great. As I said, Ms. Doherty's, that was a nice win for us on. So that's great.
So when exactly does the e-newsletter come out and when will the next one come?
Okay, the e-newsletter should be out, it'll be out probably tomorrow.
I know I had the
Yeah,
final
the
review
final view.
tonight, so.
Yeah.
it should
And that's
go
the
into-
inaugural issue, right?
No, November.
I think it's the second issue. I
Yeah.
think there was one in November.
November's issue came out.
I
Yep.
think I got it.
I
I
got it.
didn't get, I signed up with them, but
I got
didn't
it.
get-
I got my November issue.
I'll-
in the
I'll-
email.
Yeah, let me
Spam.
know.
'Cause
If
I
you don't
signed up
receive it,
again
let me know.
today. They told me I was already
Okay,
signed up.
sure.
Yep.
So,
I did the same thing.
Check your spam, just in case it's there.
and
Your spam
what's
folder.
it called?
I'll send it to you because
Okay,
I have that.
yeah.
But for the hard copy magazine, we put out that, and if you can, we'll go into the item 9.4. This is the reusable bags with the Township Sustainable Green Business logo. Let me just tell you, the bags have been such a success. We right now have given out 271 bags so far. That's 271 opportunities that we've engaged with community residents over this issue. 100 bags are in the library, 75 pledges have been taken so far. And what's great about this is fantastic. These are just some of our residents who have taken the pledge. This will actually go in the digital magazine and the hard copy magazine, this copy. And this is just, it's our supervisors, it's some of our residents, it's some of our library patrons, and it's a really great opportunity. They're going to format it a little fancier. This was just a rough thing we were putting together, but it was great. What we also did of those bags, I mean, we gave Bunny Hare 25, we gave Kate and Grace 25, Miss Darty Nurseries 25, the Running Place 25, Megan Studios 10, the Township Board of Supervisors and all of us here, we got 20 given out there. But we also, what we did with our Newtown Square Business Association events, or when we're in Acme, we're not allowed to set up a table in Acme right now because of legal issues. So what we do is when we're in Acme, we engage with residents and provide them with the bags. So we have used up, we have 79 bags left. So we're going to be putting forth an item to a request to use our existing funds. We have $354 left over from the 2023 EAC budget. Our bags will cost us $736. So we will leaves us $17.27 in our budget. So we'll have exhausted all of our funds within our budgeted year. And Suzanne will be able to, if everyone agrees tonight, to purchase those bags. What we're planning to do with those bags, we're not going to continue bags forever. This is this is our last shot. If the farmer's market is continuing next year, and it looks like it may or may not go on. If they do, Cindy has reached out, and Linda had mentioned that they would be supportive of plastic bag ban at the farmer's market. And if that were to happen, the EAC has committed that we would provide 100 of these bags to be for them for that purpose. And if not, then it would go back into these other outreach community programs that we have. But as I said, bags have been a great success. And if you can, Tim, can you show the next slide? There's a really important person. And the next one. Tim, the next slide. See the next one. There you go. Hold on. See? Look who is using Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition. Isn't that adorable? Santa is green. Santa is being sustainable and making sure that any of his purchases are used with not using plastic bags. This is also highlighted. This has gone out to our township Facebook page. It was highlighted in all the community pages. It's on our digital thing. And Santa stopped by my house just to make that picture.
He
So
looks so animated.
he is so excited. It was really a great thing. But again, these bags, I know we talked before, some of us have multiple bags and we didn't want to waste resources and buy new bags. But why this was important is the opportunity for engagement. It was really a chance to connect. And we found some some of our businesses, just like to have that as an option. It's something that we're doing is saying, and before we went around for, Santa came in the St. Albans Circle, all of the businesses that we had, we made sure that they had enough bags because we wanted to make sure residents that were coming in to shop that evening for the Santa and the tree lighting service saw sustainability. So, great news. So,
So this just occurred to me. Where's Waldo? You know how you try to find Waldo?
yes,
Where's the green bag? Do something like that.
Yes.
Just, a picture of whoever,
There you go.
Yeah,
Where's the green
that's a
bag?
great
Where's
idea.
Waldo?
What we are
Scavenger
trying to
hunt.
do is everyone that goes into the library who's been taking the plate, some of them are taking their photos. I would love each one of you to have it, and I'm Dan, I want your whole family if you can. But I really want that because we want to put out a couple series of posting. And the reason being is it's really an opportunity to engage. We want them to know what the logo means. We want them to know what the bag means, and we really want to change the behavior. So, the item that I will need from all of you is, just put forth a motion to reorder the 350 more bags with our 2023 budgeted funds. And anyone want to second that motion?
Second.
Second, all right. Motion was made by Sheila Sullivan Feeney, seconded by, I'm gonna give it to Dane
Yeah,
because it's
I'd
his
say-
last action. And it's seconded by Dane Shoemaker to purchase the last order of Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition bags. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion stands. Woohoo, wonderful. All right. Okay, public comment. Oh, before we go to public comment, I do have a couple of other items.
I wanted to know when the next email, the e-newsletter needs to
Yeah.
come out so that we can
That's-
be addressing that issue. now.
Perfect. All right, there's a couple dates. January 8th, we mentioned that that's the EAC draft report is due into Cindy, so we make sure that we can turn that in. January 12th, I'd asked if you can RSVP to me, letting me know if you're going to be going to the February 24th EAC Network Conference. And if you can, let me know because we'll be able to get a group discount by doing it at one time. In addition, the township with their magazine, it'll be roughly the middle of the month. So if we can, for planning purposes, if you have time over the holidays, think of the whole year and think of what content would be appropriate and start maybe making a tickler file of things. Because we're going to want to provide the e-magazine with content on a regular basis. We gave them 4 or 5 things and she actually loved everything we gave. Because it gives them a chance to, encourage people to click onto these stories. So if we can give valuable content that's short, brief, to the point, and it really kind of engages the resident in information and makes them aware of it, that'd be great. Our target time will be mid-month, but I'll know each date as they tell me, but that's, we should assume by the 15th, and it goes to, usually about the 20th, it'll go out to, the residents as soon as the editor and the township approve of it, but just for your own planning purposes. The other thing is our next EAC meeting is January 18th at 5 p.m. And at that point, we will do the EAC reorganization. But I would love from you any dates that you have, if you can, over the Christmas holidays or Hanukkah or whatever, Kwanzaa holidays, whatever you're celebrating. If you could just send me those dates so we could just have a map out of the year because we've got a lot going on. Busy, fantastic year. All right, public comments? Anyone, any other EAC members have anything else? Jane? Finishing thoughts before you?
Just again, thank you very much for a wonderful couple of years and yeah, looking forward to partnering more.
You
volunteering
definitely
More
are.
in the future, so.
Joe,
Thank you.
anything?
No.
Yeah, Cindy, anything else? No. Janet?
No?
All right,
thank you.
any public comment? Item number 10, public comment? John? Oh, if you please stand up to the,
Go up to the mic, please,
Yeah.
because we have people at home right
Yeah.
there at the podium and it makes sure it's turned
and
off.
John, if you turn on the mic and then just for the record, we need to have your name and address, please.
Okay,
Thank
John
you.
Butler, 102 Hunters Run. When PRC ran the farmer's market, we had 2 businesses donate money for the bags. So maybe the sustainable business participants, maybe they could donate some of the money.
Yes,
A lot of towns are having a bag exchange because a lot of people are picking up a lot of bags and maybe you should have a drop off. that people could drop off their extra bags so other people could pick them up
Right.
on that deal. I did
John,
send,
have you have any experience though, because a bag should be washed after 10 uses, especially if there's milk or if meat or other products, and you have to watch out for salmonella. Is there, with the bag exchange, do they do the cleaning and the proper, sanitation of the bags, or do they?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. That's the
Uh,
problem. We looked into that, and there was a little bit more to it than just. I
Well,
just
hopefully
didn't,
the people will turn in clean bags.
yes, you would hope.
You never know.
Well, some of those bags have plastic in them and they hold on to those.
Right.
So they recommend that they have to be washed, every 10 times you use them. So
Well,
anything else?
I did send Cindy the latest update on the Marple case. And they don't feel there will be a decision maybe till sometime next year, maybe late. And whichever party loses, there's gonna be an appeal
Sure.
with the PICO. So it's going on. It's gonna go on for a long time.
And when did you send that, John?
I just sent it now
Oh,
during the meeting.
okay.
Okay.
That's why I didn't remember getting
Because the
it.
issue came up.
You are watching your email?
Our phones are down during this bit. All right.
Uh,
Anything else, John?
The other thing on stormwater, apparently there's a test case or something going on in the state, questioning whether it's legal. So maybe you want to check that out.
Yeah, there's a case with Westchester Borough that we're aware of.
Okay, because it may be, maybe a lot of towns will have to refund some money. I don't know.
The case with the stormwater that's with Westchester Borough that's going on is related to the non-taxed properties. I don't think it's an issue on taxed properties. It's more of an issue. It had to deal with the Westchester University challenged Westchester Borough when they were billed because they're a non-taxable property. And that's the issue.
Okay,
And the township has been aware of that and is watching that.
okay. The other thing was the billboard case, which was very active about 10 years ago. Haverford, Marple, Springfield, and Newtown were involved in that. And the Haverford apparently has been on appeal for the 10 years, and apparently they're making a settlement of some type. It will come out probably in January. So I asked your president of the board to look and see if Newtown had ever done anything, because if you don't have an area set up for billboards, that was the case that they sued everybody, and it cost a lot of money. I think Marple probably spent about $100 grand in the case, and Haverford must have spent a lot more than that. And so, you have to have it out there to protect yourself. County also has model ordinances, and I'm quite sure they had a buffer ordinance as a model. So it helps you to use a model if the county has one. That's all I want to say. So, okay.
Thanks a lot. All right, so